No, tonight. All right. So that's why I'm on tonight. 'Cause I told you last week that I want to do a live tutorial with you on TaskStream tonight. And so.
Oh, I'm not talking about TaskStream. I'm talking about Blackboard.
Blackboard. I'm going to get to that one too.
Okay.
I'm going to get to TaskStream and Blackboard tonight. And if I don't, hopefully if I can stay on task, I can get both of them. If not, then I'll come on again next week. First thing I want to talk to you about tonight, and in that vein, is Gerald's suggestion that we record videos covering material and send it out to the site supervisors. I talked with Bruce today about that, and I don't mean to try to overpower Jerry in his thinking, but we had collaborative meetings this afternoon with partners. We had superintendents and principals from all over the state and South Carolina in today on campus at Gardner Webb as our collaborative partners. And one of the things that came out of that is we ought to be holding a town hall like this for our collaborative partners, for our site supervisors. Instead of just sending them a video, we ought to invite them to attend with us, and then we'll send everybody the video, the ones that can attend. So what I'm thinking about is maybe looking at my calendar, and I want you folks to look at yours because I'd like for you to be in participation as well. Just watch what's going on and chime in and remind me of things that I forget. Tonight is the 19th, and I'm looking at maybe Tuesday, October the 3rd. 2 weeks, I think that would be adequate notice. You think that would be adequate notice to give site supervisors an opportunity to do a town hall like we're doing, where I cover basically the information that we have given, the coach's script that we have given students, that I cover.
Did you say October 10?
Pardon?
October 10? Did you say October 10?
Yeah, I'm looking at October 3rd, 2 weeks from today, or 3 weeks from today. My question to you folks is do you think that would be of value if we had a town hall for the site supervisors to get them on board? And do they need 2 or 3 weeks notice in terms of planning their calendar to maybe, we'd probably go at about 7 o'clock rather than 6. Do like a 7 o'clock, and I would do, and then you would be there and you could chime in, but if they had questions, but instead of just recording a video and sending it to them, record the session and then put that out, but give them the opportunity to participate in the session. Is that too much trouble? Is that just something I should do on my own, or what do you folks, what's the feedback on that?
But what the role of the site supervisor, you're talking about the principal at the school?
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, is to just, that's all they have to do is sign the hours and supervise their experience, right?
That's correct.
No, they've got to give the opportunities. That's the big deal. You've got to convince them that this is more than a bunch of mess. They've got to get on board, and they've got to give them the opportunity to set up these PLCs, to get and do the master.
There you go.
We've got to get them on board. Do not send them a video. They will not watch it. They are too busy.
I'm just going to be honest. I think they're not paid and they're busy as well, and dependent on when they got their own license, they had to go through this experience as well, unless they're old and out of touch with what's going on. And
easy now, you're talking about me.
You're talking about me?
Yeah, they're talking about me too.
And I don't know, it's always hard. I mean, they're doing this at our mercy.
Yeah.
And,
Dale?
At 7 o'clock at night, when they've got stuff all the time, I'm just being realistic.
When's a better time?
Huh?
When would be a better time?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying don't do it. I know it's necessary. I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to think through it.
Well, that was part of the feedback that we got today from the principals and the superintendents that we had is exactly what Gene said. They need to be aware of what their role is and how they can help in this process. They need kind of an overview. And to Phyllis's point, a lot of them didn't come through this program, didn't come through an evidence artifact clinical route, and especially the South Carolina people, and they kind of need to know what our program is, and again, to Gene's point, what they should be doing in terms of providing the opportunities for these people and some feedback.
One of the first things I ask when I meet, and introduce our program is, in a tactful kind of way is, and where did you complete your program?
Right.
And, that kind of thing if I don't know. And did you take the test or did you have a portfolio? And what's been your experience? And
Dale, when I met with the C1s, can you hear me?
Yes.
The C1s that I've been meeting with in South Carolina, I've been taking the overview of task one, of the task, and we just walk through those and whether this is what's happening in the fall, this is what they need to work on in the spring, and so forth. And then talk about things like your school schedule, your school improvement. And so I've been tailoring that to their specific school, but really, and it's varied. One principal needed 5 minutes, he knew exactly. Another was newer and he needed 12 minutes.
Right.
So,
right.
It's been tailored to each one of them.
Well,
Dale,
excuse me. I think, go ahead.
I think this would kind of give us a common basis, and Steve Bingham, I want to make sure I recognize Steve. Steve put together that overview of the task, of all 6 tasks. He said, that was something that principals were asking him. That was his feedback from his first round of visits was, could you give me an overview of the evidence artifacts? Yet you've given me a list of the activities, and we got that. All right, the evidence artifact work. What is that? And he made that one, and I shared it with you. It's just an overview of the 6 tasks and of the 6 evidence artifacts in the individual tasks. And that's what I'm referring to is here's what they're going to be doing in terms of the list of clinical activities. Here's what they're going to be doing in terms of their evidence artifact. We need for you to give them the opportunity to do those. That was the feedback that we got today from our collaborative partners that we had on campus today is make sure that principals, you don't have to do it. You just have to make sure that they have the opportunities to do it. And if they want to give us more feedback about things they'd like to see us do, that's all the better. But the word came back today, and I was part and parcel of the presentation today. And so we explained to them what we're doing. We went through the courses and we went through the tasks. We explained to these people. We had 3 hours with them today. And the overwhelming feedback was you need to share this with principals. Because if they're in South Carolina, they have no idea what evidence artifacts are. If they're in North Carolina and they came through more than 7 years ago, they have no idea what evidence artifacts are. And I don't think I can't put you on the road to spend a day with them, training them. I mean that's just not realistic. This is kind of a makeup. I mean, part of what we had to talk about today is now that everything is online and now that we're doing business online, is it effective as face-to-face? And the general consensus is no, it's not. And so we have to try to figure out ways to make up those gaps that we're missing by not being able to do everything face-to-face anymore. But I can't justify sending you folks out for a half a day and pay you $150 a semester or $50 for a visit, and you got to be there all day trying to explain all this stuff. And see, again, I go back to that. I'm trying to be mindful of pay versus requirements. And I'd rather me be inconvenienced in time and do these things. I can't good conscience send you out for a 3-hour visit for $50.
My point is
that won't pay more. So I've got to figure out another way. And we do need to collaborate with our partners. These principals are our partners. We need to involve them more. And I get that. And that's what Jerry was talking about. We need to find a way to involve them more. And he's exactly right.
But if you offer that at 7 o'clock and it's not convenient, my point is that the C1 could then, when that visit occurs, then you follow up to what you did and it'll go much faster. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. What time of day do you think that would be more appropriate that we might could get some participation?
I like 7 o'clock because, especially if you've got high school people, Tuesday is a pretty good day because a lot of those other days they've got supervision.
Ball games.
And
that's why I picked Tuesday.
Ball games. They can't get there. So I think 7 o'clock is a really good time, and it is after dinner.
Yeah.
And I would say that one of the things that's good about that face-to-face and going over all that stuff is after the meeting, sometimes the principal will say things like, I don't know why this person is in your program because they have an action plan as a teacher.
Exactly.
And boy, that's the flag you want to hear, and you want to hear it loud and clearly so you can try to counsel people in the right direction. So there's a lot to that face-to-face.
Well, and an extension of that, but yeah, I picked Tuesday because as a former high school principal, Tuesday was our light day.
That's it.
I'm missing a person and I'm missing a golf match today.
Yeah. So
I'm not at the elementary school.
Along the point about the teacher quality, one of the things that was a concern of the group that we had in today, and it was the superintendents. The way we were in one of those glass rooms upstairs in Tucker Center today, and we had a big long conference table, and it was funny how the central office people sat on one side and the school-based people sat on the other. You know, they kind of separate themselves that way. But you know, the central office side, you know what their big concerns. The principal side was what Gene just said. We're concerned about the quality of the people getting in the program. You know what the superintendent's side's concern was? The quality of the principals. Was there some vetting that we went through before we would let a principal coach these people or be their mentor? And we said, nope, it's self-selecting. And that's when they said, folks need to get some more information out to them.
Well, they should have thought about that when they hired them.
Well,
yeah.
I had to bite my tongue. I was like, you're supposed to pee outside the tent, not pee inside the tent.
Oh, Lord.
That's exactly what I thought. But now that was the feedback that they got, that they gave, that they wanted us to work more with principals, not only because of teachers, but more importantly, because they weren't sure that there was any kind of a quality control on the principals that we're working with. And that's true. We don't get to select who they are. We select our students. I'm not sure of the process. I mean, it may, of how we selected them, so I won't get into that. I was on that rant last night with Philip. When you have a recruiting company, I'm not sure that you really have control of that process. They have a control, but we're going to but one of the things that Bruce is working on, some of the feedback that we've gotten from our accreditor and from the superintendents today is that we do need to put a step in after the recruitment by the professional recruiting company. We do need to put a step in terms of who we accept into the program. And so Bruce is going to work on that end. That's going to be at their end. But the superintendents were clear. We need to make sure that we're informing and working with the principals that are working with the interns.
What else do they want us to do, Dale?
Well, they want us to. Well, this is Jeff and I talked all the way. He drove back to his house, and I drove back here to the lake tonight because I got to be on the road toward the eastern part of the state in the morning. So I came back here tonight, but we talked the hour and a half it takes me to drive back here. We talked. What they want us to do as well, superintendents, is start putting in some simulations.
Okay.
what they want us, and and we talked about that maybe we could do that in CILD in the summer, require the MELS students to come to that and have maybe 3 or 4 90-minute simulations, and the simulations that they want are based on soft skills, dispositions, primarily communication.
Yep.
That was the feedback that we got today, that you can have all the hard skills in the world, but the delineator, the decision maker as to whether I hire an assistant principal because they got to project them as a principal down the road is soft skills. And once they become an assistant principal, they have to demonstrate, they have the potential and they get the job, they have to demonstrate those soft skills, being able to communicate with parents, community members, board members, teachers, staffs, that that they're looking for dispositional skills. That is the delineator. When we ask them straight out, what's your biggest decision in hiring a person to become an administrator? And they said dispositions.
Dale,
especially communication.
Dale,
yes.
one of the best things that I ever went to in training was the assessment center. Springfield, North Carolina used to do that. They'd send people to that. And you did the in basket, out basket stuff.
I do that with 605s. I do that in basket activity on communication. I do Gallup on dispositional skills. I do that in 605. When I normally teach those classes, and then I guest in other classes. I went to, Danny can tell you, I drove to Raleigh from the beach this summer and came up and did that with his 605 group there. We do that, but we need a better system than depending on Dale will do it. It needs to be a part of what we do.
Yeah, don't you think that the peer review process gets them started with that? Because if they do that properly, they are confronting the need to improve.
I went through that today and told them that's why I had Jeff back up on the slides, and I said, if you see this model right here, you see it says peers. What we're doing now is we're forcing them to learn to give bad news.
Right.
in a peer review based off a rubric.
Right.
Yes, I said, we can't model that in classrooms anymore because we don't meet in classrooms anymore. And so the primary purpose of the peer review was not the content, it's the interaction. Danny and I talk about that all the time. The instructor and the coach need to lead the content. I check it first as coach to make sure all the parts there. Danny checks it as instructor. The students, what they look at is syntax and grammar and those things, but they have to be able to deliver the bad news. They have to be able to look at somebody and say, your work's not as good as you think it is. And that's what peer review is for. And so they were very excited to hear that we were doing that. But they wanted us to extend that beyond that, and they want to see us do some simulations on some other soft skills. And so Jeff and I, our side gig, Jeff's main gig, but our side gig is we are the DEOL department. And so I just came off a weekend. I had all day Saturday and all day Sunday class in DEOL. That's what we do on the weekends. We don't have anything better to do, so we teach class all weekends. But one of the good things about DEOL is we still meet face to face at least 6 times all day every semester. Sometimes 8 times all day, according to which class it is. In my stat class, I teach stat in that. We meet 8 times face to face. But the good thing about that is Jeff is really good at that. He's got some expertise, and we do four simulations in DEOL. And so we know how to do it, or Jeff knows how to do it, and we understand that. And so that's something down the road that we're going to be looking to do. But one of the things that I don't want it to become is something else that we push off on coaches and say, here, by the way, do this as well. But that may be the vehicle that we have to use. But right now, what we would like to see is that at CILD conference in the summertime, when our master students come and we have a day of simulation set up with them where they rotate between 4 classrooms, and do those simulations for dispositional soft skills, communication, and
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
and so that's how we envision it right now. If I can't get that pulled off, I told Jeff, I said it's going to be a logistical nightmare to get coaches, and that's just one more thing for them to have to do. And I don't really, we can involve them in it at CILD, but I don't want to just dump it on, hey coaches, by the way, you're supposed to do these simulations for soft skills somewhere along the way, because I'm not sure simulations work better face to face.
That's what I was going to say.
That's the whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we did them as coaches, we'd have to do them virtually. I'm not sure that we're doing the virtual already with peer review. We've already got that part covered. We need to add a face-to-face part to work on these disposition skills, these simulations. And so I think the best vehicle is CILD. So that's Jeff and I are going to meet Thursday. I'm going to be on the road tomorrow, and so is he. And so we're going to get back together Thursday and start working, developing a proposal to meet that part of what the feedback that we got today. We talked to Bruce right after the meeting today, and his idea is that I will conduct a town hall in either 2 or 3 weeks where we cover the things, and as Gene said, we tell them, this is what we're doing, but here are the list of activities, here are the evidence artifacts. What we need for you to do is figure out how you can help your folks get access to be able to do these things. I mean, I won't beat them down with TaskStream or Blackboard or any of that stuff. I'm just going to, we're going to do an overview, and we need your help to help our folks be able to do these things. So that they come away with the preparation that they need to be successful in their job.
Well, I think another issue that needs to be covered in the CC1 is not you're doing this to help us. You're not. You're doing this as a site mentor to help your school. Here's 2 more hands that you can put to work on these topics. And that needs to be clear, because one of the big hurdles to start with is the principal says, well, I want you to work on discipline. I want you to work on attendance. No. We'll do that when we talk about climate and, stakeholder involvement. We'll do that down the road. But here are the 6 big things that we're going to do for your school by giving you some resource hands. So I really tried to do that when I went out and talked to principals. This is an opportunity for them to grow and for their school to go ahead and do some things they've been wanting to do but didn't have the hands.
Didn't have the resources. Well, Danny might want to speak to this. Danny and I, mostly Danny, I'm just a sidekick. Danny, in Danny's 601 classes, that's one of the things that we've talked to students about is don't pick attendance for the app problem. Don't pick.
Nope, can't do it.
I know your principal wants you to do that, but we've got a place in here for you to do that. We want you to start out with forming a PLC and focus on instruction, because that's what we do in the business is instruction.
Amen.
Danny might want to speak to that.
Well, it's been a struggle with a few of them, but they've gone back and they've had to start all over again. When I realized that they were going in that direction, and they've risen to the occasion. I've had to give them some extra time to get that draft work in, but they've gone back and they've done it. So out of the 30, I think it's 33 students we have between the 2 classes, Dale, I would say 31 of them have done exactly what they're supposed to do at this point.
But to Gene's point, you have to tell them, and you have to tell, and we should be telling the principals as well.
Right.
That this is not just somebody else to be on bus duty or somebody else to work on this. And
Gene, I do the same thing. When I do my CC1 visits, that is what I stress to the principals from the very beginning. That all of this other stuff, PBIS and all this stuff, it will filter into what they do later on, but that's not initially what we're talking about.
The bus duty
most important, and we start with it.
Yeah, the bus duty thing too is something that's a good example to just say, yes, I want them to do bus duty, I want them to be on supervision, but I want them to learn how they're supposed to react when there's a bus accident. What happens when you need to get a kid on the bus, when you need to take them off the route? What are the things that happen with transportation? It's larger than getting the kids on and off the bus.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, in 603, this week's activity, in 603 for me, I have an activity every week. I still old school. I come online every Wednesday night at 7 with my classes, on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. And so this week's activity is you're an AP, you're in charge of a field trip, you've had a bus accident, go. Tell me what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, those are the kinds of things that I want to see us do in our classes as assignments or activities. It's not read another chapter and answer another question. It's
Right.
real life. And so every one of my weekly activities and discussion board in 603 it's linked to the topic of the reading that week, but it's interview a HR person about how jobs are advertised and or HR person about benefits. Watch an AP and then do a due process on disciplinary case, and then interview them about the steps in your district about due process. Every one of those kinds of things, we need to support our internship with what we do in our classes as well, and that's something that we're working on. We're trying to devise shells for teachers, for our instructors that don't just rely on read a chapter, answer questions kind of thing. So we're working toward that. But you're exactly right. We want them to do some supervision, but we want them to learn more than just how to stand out on bus duty and wear a heavy coat. And that's what we have to communicate. I don't know. If we get 5 principals to join us out of the 170 new ones, I'll be happy. But we'll record it and send it to the others. But we've got to start getting principals aware that we're here to serve you, and that you're the consumer of our product, and that you need to be giving us feedback. But that you need to. But part of that is a responsibility on your part, not just to have somebody, an extra set of hands that you don't end up training them. You just stick them, as an extra body. That has to be reciprocal. Yes, there is some of that bus duty stuff, but we can't start out with bus duty or discipline or PBIS. We need for them to start out that there's a process. They learn how to assess instruction. They need to look at scores and gaps, how to form and run a PLC, how to, out of that, the APTEL, how to create a staff development plan for your school. And then that this thing is a process, and we can't skip over to the cultural piece, which is, behavior and bus duty in 5 in the CAP. We can't skip over there, because guess what? If we start there, we'll never get out of there. We'll never make it back around to instruction and staff development.
That's right.
I mean, it's not my first day. And so I know that if we allow students to start with discipline and attendance, that's all they'll ever do. That'll be the end of it. And they'll never get in classrooms. They'll never deliver any staff development. They'll never run a PLC. They'll never do any of the things that they need to learn as an executive leader. They'll just be, and the superintendent in Rutherford County was there today, and complete disclaimer, she's my first cousin. And we raised her when she was in high school. I think she stayed at our house as much as she did her house. So that's my disclaimer on her. So you can take it for what it's worth. But that's one of the things that she talked about today is we've got that principals have got to do a better job inducting these people in, because we don't want any more career assistant principals that only do buses and buds. If we can't project you as a principal down the road, we're not going to hire you. And if we do hire you and that's all you can do, we're not going to keep you. And she was talking today about wailing and gnashing her teeth that she's had to go through in Rutherford County to get rid of some old-time assistant principals that had good evaluations. It wasn't that they were below standard or on action plans, but but they had never developed the skills. They could not be projected as a principal, and that we don't want career APs anymore. And she looked at me and I looked at her, and we both knew exactly who she was talking about. When she got her first teaching job at East Rutherford High School, they had an assistant principal who was assistant principal there for 40 years.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot of books, buses, and bad boys.
At Central High School, Mr. Ed Norris, who I thought of as my second father, he was so old, he started out as dean of men and then became assistant principal. And he did that for 40 years. But that's not who we want to hire nowadays, and that's not what we want our people to become. And so in a sense, you're protecting these interns from themselves. You're looking out for their own best interest by telling them no. Oh, they don't like it. Oh, I'll have to start and do all this work again. You haven't done anything yet. In comparison to what you're going to have to do, you've done 1,000th of the work you're going to have to do in this program. But if we let you do that, you're setting yourself up for never making it in this business. You won't get hired, much less get fired, because you'll never get hired. And that was one of the points that Janet made today in the group is we're not going to hire those people. If we've got them, we're going to get rid of them, and we're not going to hire them. If we can't project them down the road into a principalship, if all they can do is discipline and books and classes, not going to hire them. And you're right. Some principals take advantage of their interns. And that's part of why we want to talk to them directly is don't do that, but say it in a nice way. Don't take advantage of these interns. You know, give them the opportunity to learn it all and to grow and develop as an actual leader. But you can't just, and I've told you before, I'm the perfect example. My year-long internship, I ran the bus lot, period. That's the end of that story.
Yeah.
That's what I did for a whole year. We were converting all of us are old enough to remember when we converted from student drivers to adult drivers. I ran the bus lot for the whole year.
Yeah.
That was my entire internship, trying to get people to get them drug tested, get their license, doing the routing and driving the bus because we were always short. Knowing all the places that all my coaching buddies were hiding so we can go dig them out and make them drive the bus.
Yeah.
That's what I did for a year. But I had the luxury of interning before accountability came in. And, I interned during the time that the basic ed plan was passed, before we ever got to accountability. And I was on the first wave of accountability. I was an elementary principal in '89 when that came along. And I got to learn with everybody else. But now everybody else has learned. And if you all you do is bus lot during your internship, you won't have the luxury that I had to learn with everybody else later on.
Yeah.
And
well,
so,
my son drove one of those buses, so you know about me.
Yeah. And so, but it's got to be more than that. And so it's kind of like we're juggling 2 or 3 balls at one time. We've got to keep the interns focused on what they need to do. We've got to keep the principals focused on what they should be doing with them. And then we've got to be focusing on what the superintendent wants in terms of hiring these people.
Right.
So that superintendents now are part and parcel of the assistant principal hiring process. It's no longer the principal just, hires who they want kind of thing. And so we've got 3 constituencies here that we are trying to facilitate, or we're trying to meet the needs of three constituencies here. It's not easy, but the one that we really need to pick up and start working more with is the actual site supervisor. That's kind of where, we've given them a list of activity and a hail and hearty handshake, but we need to be more proactive in what they do with that intern every day. But do it in a way that's not threatening to them, hopefully. But yeah, that's something we're going to have to pick up on. We're going to have to start doing a better job in helping them help us. So that's kind of where we're headed. So I'm going to go ahead. Do you think it should be 2 weeks or 3? How much notice do they need? I'll get that notice out probably tomorrow, because I'm going to have to go back and get a database of all the emails. I would do it tonight if I had that, but Seth will have to run that for me. He doesn't work at night like I do, so he's smarter than I am. So he'll be back in the morning. I can get that run. 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
What is it you're going to do? I missed that first part, I think.
I'm gonna do a town hall like I'm doing with y'all right now, but we're gonna do it and invite the site supervisors
Okay.
and kind of give them a overview of the program, reiterate the activities on the suggested list, but also cover the task and the evidence artifacts and give them an idea of the access that they need to give our interns. So
Okay,
that's well-rounded and not just do bus duty the whole time.
Yeah.
That was the superintendent's concern. Their concern was is we don't have any quality control over who we select as site supervisors. So we need to make sure that they hear a consistent message from the university as to what the expectation is in working with interns.
Well, I'd say a couple of weeks so we could go ahead and get them going in this semester, but maybe the clinical coaches could reach out to those site mentors as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it on the calendar for 7 p.m. on Tuesday. We won't meet next week in preparation for that unless you want to. But Tuesday, October the 3rd at 7 p.m., I'll send an invite to all of you and all of them. And I may even do the early send out on that one so they'll have it, and I'll send it again, the link to join us. But we'll do one, and I'll have a program developed on PowerPoint and this is the activities, this is the evidence artifacts. They've got to do 80 hours every semester. Here's some things that we'd like to see you doing with them or giving them the opportunity to do, and then get some feedback from them, and say to them what I've said to you. We can't just have them doing bus duty the whole time.
I apologize. I joined late, but is this a meeting for 601 site supervisors?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Barbara, for pointing that out. This is for our new people.
Okay.
This is for our new, this would be for 601 site supervisors. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't want to try to go back and when one of the things that we've learned in this program is you can't do anything retroactive. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Right.
You just have to you just have to swallow your pride and take your lumps on the groups before.
And
it's always about this semester, and then we try to make only major changes in the fall of the year unless the university makes us do something in the spring. We try to just make changes once a year and add new things or adjust what we're doing. But that's a great point, Barbara. No, this will not be with people who's site supervisors and they're like in 603 or 5. No, this is for only the new ones right now. And again, this is based on the feedback that we got from superintendents today that they're concerned that you don't get to pick the site supervisors. As one of them said, and I won't say what district he was in, he said he wouldn't want all of his principals having interns. And I was like, but as he said, he inherited them. He didn't hire them. And I understand that. He inherited those principles, and some of them are still old school at the rural district, not Rutherford, not Cleveland, but we had another superintendent there. And he said, he inherited some people that.
Okay, we'll let him off the hook.
Not sure. Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Not sure that he would want them doing this. And I said, we don't get to pick. Student self-selects and whoever their administrator is. And so they wholeheartedly suggested that we need to maybe inform the site supervisors and get them to where they understood their role in this process. And so
maybe our intern can help the principal become better. I've seen that happen with some of my students. They basically took over the school and the principal let them.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I always suggest before I leave, whether I'm a CC 1, 2, or it doesn't make any difference what role I am when I go out in school and meet with a student and the site supervisor. My suggestion that always to them is, and that's one of the reasons why I take a hard copy of the suggested list with me and the evidence artifact task is I suggest that they two sit down and kind of plan out how they're going to be able to hit everything on those lists. Don't make them, and it's not required.
That's a good idea.
But that's why I take a hard, I told you last week, I take a hard copy with me. I send them one electronically, but the hard copy, I put it in their hand and I say, you know, it'd be a good idea if you sat down and kind of penciled in when and where you think that this student, you know, you might need to get a substitute for them to attend this, or they might need some release time to do that, but that you plan this thing out collaboratively, that the two of you plan it out. And if you need me to help, I'll be glad to come back. I mean, I remember clearly, you know, with Darlene Sanders, who was a student at Myers Park High School. Mark Bosco is the principal, and I sat with them one morning from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and between the three of us, they wanted me to come, I guess, and referee, but we sat down and planned out her entire internship, what semester she would do what on that list of activities. And the reason why is you have to be careful, and all of you know this. She was a federally funded CTE teacher, and he couldn't get substitutes for her, and he couldn't give her release time and those kinds of things because that's not within his purview. He's not paying her salary. And so his concern is, you know, I don't want to get in trouble with the feds, and, you know, I can't use local funds to pay for a substitute for a federally funded teacher. That'll get me in hot water. So he said, could you come and kind of help us with this? And I did. And we sat and we worked through, you know, some things and maybe adjusted some stuff. And, but that's exactly, I mean, so, I mean, I have actually sat in on those, and I've done that more than once. I went to Steel Creek and did that. I mean, I went to Highland Renaissance Academy and did that. I mean, that normally, you know, because people knew me in Charlotte, they felt comfortable calling me in, and I've gone into more schools than that and sat down and kind of brokered that list between the principal and the student. And so I don't suggest that we get into that, because again, that's a function of me, and that's not good planning. That's hope. And so I always like a plan. So I think if we address the site supervisors in a collaborative way, in a big way, and kind of get them started on this and suggest that they do that, if they need our individual help, we'll be more than glad to provide it. But, you know, as the superintendents today are concerned that we have some quality control on that part of it. And I would have to, we engaged in this conversation last week before we even met. We already knew that we needed some quality control on this end of it. That was one of the things that kind of our self-assessment during the CAPE process has led us to. You know, I'm on the CAPE standard 2, which is clinicals. And that's one of the things we'd already discovered is we needed to do a better job of that. So we already knew that. We were talking about it, but they brought it up today without us even prompting them. So I guess we better get to it and quit talking about it.
Yeah.
All right. I see our time. Danny's got class in just a few minutes, and so let me slide on out. The DRF for fall 17 add-on and fall regular is in there. Now remember, Seth sent them a link via their email. This is important.
Right.
If they just go to TaskStream and try to register, it asks for a code, or they have to pay. But if they will follow that link that's in that email from Seth, it will not ask them for that code. It will recognize them, and they won't have to pay or have a code. It will go. They will be able to register their accounts, but it will only work if they go through that link. I sat with one yesterday morning, and we did it. I tried it both ways and found out, sure enough, that's correct. I did a beta test on it myself. So it is true that if they don't go through that link, they will not be able to successfully set up their TaskStream account. Now, that's the first thing. So both of those are there. It has everything. They look just like the ones from the spring. Everything is good to go on those. You know what those look like. Here's the other thing. Now, I certainly hope that this is going to work. So far, the feedback is it's working. We have preloaded in their folios and web pages. We have preloaded their competency folio, and it's live. They don't have to go through all those steps of downloading it, copying it, making it live, and activating it. Supposedly, and so far the ones I've seen, it has worked. All they have to do is click on the folios and web pages. There will be one competency folio there. They click on it, and boom.
Okay, great.
Into the 21, and it's going
Yeah.
to. Now, here's the piece of this that to keep in your back. This is not something that you have to take an action on. But if somebody asks you in the new program, not the old program, anybody that's in the program that started before this fall, if they ask you about digital competencies or digital learning competencies, you tell them you don't have to do that. Now, for the fall 17 people, we have integrated that. I sat and redid that complete folio. They are now integrated. 18 of those 21, the best that I can match them up, and you might say, well, Dale, you missed it on that one. I read each one of those digital competencies and figured out or tried to match it to where I thought it best fit. And so one of the three under that one, say, for example, for communication, one of their three, they've got to have three competencies. One of them has to come from the app cell, one from the SIOP, and one open-ended. But one of those three, not addition, but one of those three, put my hand up on the picture screen here, it has to be in digital format. Digital competencies were never intended to be separate and apart from the regular competencies. They were to be integrated into the 21 competencies. And so that's why we never used that. It wasn't required till this fall, but that's why we never used that tab on the old competency folio that said digital competencies, because it was never meant to be the 22nd one. It was supposed to be seen in the first 21. And so I went back and read all that and set and cross-tabbed those things. And so now they still have the 21 competencies. On one round of the 21, 18 of them, whether they do them all at one time or they disperse them into 3 rounds is immaterial to me. One of the competencies is going to be a digital. They're already doing that. You know, we've encouraged them to do digital from the very beginning. Take a picture, take a screenshot. Do something that fits into the digital age. Use Twitter, use Facebook, use ConnectEd. You know, all that kind of. We've been encouraging them to do that from the very beginning. In the back of my mind, that when we got to the point where we had to have the digital competencies, it wouldn't be another thing added. It would just be integrated and be part of what we were already doing. So that's the good news on that. So if you have any students who say when they click on folios and web pages, and I'm going to do that right now, I don't have it loaded in mine unless he loads it later this afternoon. When they click on that, there's going to be one that says competencies for 21st century leaders. And that way we can use it more than one semester or more than 1 year. We can use the same one. And that it will already be there, and when they click on it, it will be live. They won't have to upload or copy or do any of that stuff. When they click on it, it will be live. And when they click on the individual competencies, it will allow them to upload, and like communication, and it will have the digital competency that most likely fits with that one. Now, it's also going to say app cell, SIOP, and one open-ended because they're confused by the 1 and the 6. I get that. So I've changed that to where it reads the actual name of the evidence artifact we want it to come from. And 18 of these have one that says one of them needs to be in this format. It still comes from these 3 areas, but it needs to be in this format.
And it's actually written in the prompt there.
It's actually written in the prompt.
Good.
So that they can understand. How they can
mess it up.
Yes, Phyllis.
I'm leaving my other class at 7.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Zoom at 7. So thank you
for joining me.
All right, bye. Dale, do we have the fall 2017 in our task stream? I know this morning. I still did not have it.
I don't. He's working on that right now. I'm going to follow up with him on that. We had that collaborative conference, and we were involved in that all day today.
Okay.
So when the time we got out of that, I went back to see him. He'd already gone. I don't blame him. I'd leave rather than have to talk to me. I'd give him work to do. And so But tomorrow morning, as I said, I'm following up. I've already got an appointment with him in the morning. I'm following up. I don't have all the, I don't have those shells under my author tab, and I've only got them under my evaluator and program manager tabs. I want, they need to be put in every access that you have, whether it's author, comment, or
Yeah.
you need to have those shells, and you need to have that folio so that when you work with students, you can show them.
Yes.
And you can see what they have to do. I refer to them all the time. I have to remember what's in the particular shell for which particular DRF. I mean, when I click on mine, as you can see, this is how many I have active right now. And I don't know that I have all these active right now. And so as evaluation manager, I've got live students and all of those. I don't always off the top of my head remember what's in their DRF. And so it's always good to have the author tab so that I can go back and look and see what they see. When they ask me a question, I can refer back and look at it and say, oh, I see this is there, or it's not there.
Yeah.
So y'all need that as well. And so yes, I will
Yeah.
have him work on that too, to give you complete access on each of these tabs, and give you complete access so that you can see everything your students see.
Okay, that'll be good, because I love having that author tab too, so we can see what they see.
Yeah, that's the best thing that I've gotten. I like that.
Me too.
I want y'all to be able to see the folio as well. Once they put it in for review, you'll be able to see it. But right now, until somebody puts one in for a competency in for review, you won't be able to see that folio unless he uploads it for you, where you can go in and see it. So I'm going to have him do that tomorrow. And we're still, Rod, if Rod's listening, Rod had a good point. I was out visiting last week and he called me. We've got about 8 students in this cohort that are cross enrolled in CNI, and we don't know yet. I'll put myself in this. We don't know yet how to get them in task stream in both places, and so we're working on that one. So if you run across an intern that says I don't have a task stream account yet, there is. Ask them if they're in CNI. If they're in CNI, tell them that we're working on it. If they say, well, I don't know what CNI means, let me know immediately, and I'll get Seth to put them in. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Moving on quickly to Blackboard. I do have course builder rights now in this shell. So if you have a student who says, I don't have an XM internship shell next to my 601 course, let me know and I can put them in immediately. I finally convinced them that I wouldn't do anything crazy in Blackboard, that they could let me do that rather than having to have the tech people do that every time. And so I now have the rights. I can click on the XM shell, go in and add and delete students, which they don't normally give out outside of the technology department. So I don't know if they're giving me enough rope to hang myself or they just don't want to be aggravated with us anymore. I don't know which it is, but I can do that now. Please remember that when they go to the XM shell, that this is a common shell. You don't have your own. This is my shell that I'm giving you access to. The next thing I'm working on, if you give me a little, I want a lot. The next thing that I'm working on now is getting each of you your own shell. I would love for us to get to that by next fall. That's my goal. But now we're going to have to do some Blackboard training with you to do that. We're planning on doing some face-to-face training. If I can get you trained, I'm going to, I've already put in a request. I want each of you to have a shell just like it's your course, just like you were teaching 601. And so for Jean, who's working with Barbara, Barbara would have her 601 shell, and Jean would have her own XM shell. That just for her and her students, just for her and Barbara's students. That's the goal.
Dale, you've been doing this a long time, but wasn't that what we had years and years ago, like when I first started? Seems like I had a shell for interns.
You did, and they took it away.
Yep, and they took it away.
Because they said that we didn't know how to use it and we caused too many problems and that we hadn't done any training, and basically said that we were we were bad people. And so that's when I said it's been a struggle to get it back, because we didn't lose it just by happenstance. Supposedly we abused it or did something wrong. I don't know what we did. And so I went back to them and said, just give me one. I'll build it. You won't have to build it. They said, we don't have the time and the personnel to build these things. I said, I'll build it, and then we'll give access to everybody else. And so a little bit at a time, I'm trying to build some trust back among those people. But Barbara, you're exactly right. It's our own, you know, I don't know who did what, but they kicked us out. And so I'm trying to get us back in. And one of the ways that I'm doing that also is showing the people at across the road, as we call them at Gardner. We have the people over on University Drive over at the graduate school. We're showing them how much this shell is used, how much y'all like it, how much the students like it. We're kind of having to prove that it's needed again. And I hate that, but it's just the truth. That's what we're having to do. But yeah, Barbara's exactly right. We one time had this
some training,
but we lost it. And
I think I can learn stuff, but I can't.
I'll have to get you trained at a certain level before they're gonna let you in. But now I hate to blame the victim, but part of the problem that went wrong before is they gave people access to the shells without any training. And so when they made a mess in them, that's not the victim's fault. I mean, that's not the people who were in them. But, so that was their complaint. So yeah, we're trying to get back to that so that you will be able to have your own shell. And that is a #1 priority with me. It's not like I'm holding the information tightly and I want you to have it. I'd love for you to have your own shell. I'm working diligently to get you that. And so,
well, that'll be less confusing for the students.
Of course it will be. And see, that's why I keep telling them it's a common shell, but they don't.
I tell them too.
What that means. And so, that every one of ours is using this tab right here where it says MELS 601 for either the 3 or the 5 semester program. And you know that you can go in here, and this is where they go in and upload work for you to read. And when the place that you go to read work, when they come in here, this is for coaches' eyes only. Their peers can't see it. You simply go to Grade Center, click on Needs Grading, and let's see what's coming in this afternoon.
Well, that's good news.
Stacy McGirt and Tatiana Kearney have come in this afternoon. They came in at 12:59 and 2:30 p.m. Now, here's part of this. Now, tomorrow, if that's still in there, I'll grade it.
And why is that, Dale?
Because we're working on 3-day turnaround on TaskStream and 1-day turnaround on Blackboard now. That's part of it.
But the problem is maybe the student shouldn't have turned it in, and when you say, oh, that's great, go on, but they have missed a step.
I go in and can catch the steps. Now, that's one of the things I'm doing. I go in and catch the steps. I'm not necessarily, it's good.
Dale, what I have suggested to my students, and I've told Jean and Rachel, this is the process I want them to use this semester. I'm wanting them to put it on our class discussion board first, where I make comments, and then they get their 2 peer reviews.
Right.
Then as soon as that's done, I told them to do the Zoom conference of their peer reviews. And then I asked them to submit it to the clinical coach. And I know that at least 2 of ours has turned stuff in, and we've never seen it before, because this is the week I asked them to get everything for us to review.
Right.
And so it should go to the clinical coaches next week. So that's one of the issues we're having. And I tried to tell them in a Zoom conference, this is a process you need to be following. But some of them are getting the cart in front of the horse.
Yes, they are. And Danny.
But when you tell them how good it is, and they're not going to listen to anybody else.
Yeah,
in fact, I have one student, I've forgotten her name already. But I think she thinks you're her clinical coach because her name is Janae Massey. She has not attended any of my Zoom conferences. She hasn't submitted. I've made an assignment on one of my Zooms. She didn't send the assignment. I've emailed her and went on trying to figure out what to do with this Blackboard, and there is her work, and you've told her she's great. Go ahead and start on task 2.
Yeah.
Well, she thinks you're her coach.
Well,
I don't know what to do
they
about
see who gives them, you know, I don't put my name on them. I just tell them to keep going. But my assumption.
But I don't want them to keep going. They're going in the wrong direction, possibly, because they're not following Dr. Todd's directive of the timeline.
Yeah. So
it hasn't been through the total peer review process.
Well, one of the things that my assumption is when the work comes here, it's already been through that.
That's a bad assumption because it's not happening.
Well, we need to make sure that that's something that we're doing.
We're both telling them what they need to do, but
yeah. But see.
Well, I'm going to tell mine to just send it to me by email because I've been back and forth with many of them, and we're just doing a good job with communicating and trying to keep their level down.
I would prefer it be driven to the Black so that I have a record of it. But if that's the way, if you want to do some early work with them on that, I would like to see a lot of their work, the final stuff coming through here as kind of a quality control. But now, if the work is not complete when it comes here, and I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. If the work is not complete when it comes through here, I tell them what's missing, and I highlight. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Let me go back here. Here.
Well, we're just talking about the timeline itself, that they submitted the work before they had their group Zoom conference to do the final discussion, and you have no way of knowing that.
No, it's supposed to be reviewed by the time it gets here. And I check the big parts. Let me see right here.
And I'd like to have some credibility with my students.
Right here.
In fact, I've got to go pick up my husband in a few minutes.
All right, come on now. See, this is one that came in, and I'm guessing was not peer reviewed. This is an OMA, and I'm guessing wasn't peer reviewed. In the budget section, please address the role the school improvement team plays in developing the budget. That's one of the absolute prompts. And so what I do is, even to remind myself, I pull up the scale handbook with all the prompts in it before I start grading and reviewing in Blackboard, just to remind myself. And I wrote them, or a part of them, so I pretty much know what they are. But what I do is, are all the pieces there? And then I expect the instructor, to work on content and the peer reviews. But the role in the XM shell is, are all the pieces there? Let's catch it quickly, whether it's been peer reviewed or whatever. My concern is we catch it quickly, that they're leaving parts out, and we get feedback to them as quickly as possible.
Well, if you're just looking for pieces, if your job is just to look for the pieces to see, I've already done that a couple of times for some of these people.
But don't the students have to have their peer reviews when they submit it into TaskStream?
Yeah, they're supposed
to. So, even if they get off of their timeline, they're going to have to go back and do that part, because they're going to have to. It's going to have to be there when they submit it for a grade.
It has to be there. So the Blackboard shell is just to check that the big parts are there. The rest of the process is still in place.
So, I tell mine too, though. I don't send it in there for me to review until after you have done that peer review process.
That's my assumption. When it gets here, it's already been peer reviewed. I'm just making sure, checking behind the peer reviews, that all the parts are there. That's one of the concerns that I have and that we have, not just me, that too many times the students are enamored with with the peer review, the video part of it and all of that, and they're missing big chunks of it.
Then they need to learn how to do it.
And so this is a quality control issue, whether I like it or not. We're having to do in 601, if they're an add-on licensure, they have to do one task every week. They have 9 tasks due, and they all have to be in by the 12th week. The first one is due the 3rd week. The last one is due the 12th week. You do the math. Got 9 tasks, 9 weeks. We have to
That's
go
not
faster than I want us to have to go. And so the point of the Blackboard shell is not to sit and pick through every sentence and every is to make sure the big stuff's there, because you've already, supposedly it's already been peer reviewed, and so I'm just double checking to make sure before it goes any part of the process, because when it hits.
But your comment was that it was great, and it really was. I mean, the work that person, that's an excellent student. The work was great, but the comment was, go on to task 2.
I want them starting. They don't have to wait. Let me be clear. They don't have to wait until one is completely already peer reviewed and done before. And of course, as soon as they submit that first one, they got to be starting that next one right now. That doesn't mean the process stops on that one. But if you look, 9 tasks, 9 weeks. If we wait until the thing goes all the way through the process and is ready to be submitted in task stream as part of the bigger one, that's probably a couple of week process. They'll never stay on track. The idea is you wrote this one. Now, while it's going through the process of review to everybody, you need to go ahead and jump on the next task in line. Don't wait till that one.
We have. What we did was have the Zoom conference about discussing tasks 2 and 3. That's fine. But my concern is you telling the students that they are A-OK and to move on when Dr. Todd has a timeline that they are supposed to be following, and we're trying to get them in the tracers. So in 602, 3, 4, and 5, they're going to know the process like the back of hand. And I tell them, when you start rolling your eyes at me, I know you've got it. Until then, it is going to really be lockstep.
Yeah, but we've got to get them.
I've had success with that, and
not to be oppositional, but they've got to learn. They've got to learn that you write it, you get it reviewed. While that one's going through the process, when we determine that all the parts are there, you've got to go ahead and jump on the next part of it. You can't wait and see that one part all the way through. They'll never get through.
Dale, I don't think that's what we're trying to do. I think what we're all trying, or at least what the people that I'm working with, we just want them to follow the process. And
right.
They're keeping in front of the process. And that's where you're getting caught and you're getting frustrated with us because people aren't reviewing them. Well, they're not supposed to have because they're not supposed to have submitted them. I think that's what Jean's talking about.
Okay.
That she is feeling frustrated because she thinks you think she's behind. Well, they're not even to that point yet.
Yeah.
They haven't followed the process that we've tried to outline, and I've tried to follow the syllabus exactly the way Gerald sent it out for us.
Yeah.
And so I have told them, I think Gina's told them, and they've still submitted stuff to you before it's ever went to
Anyway, I have got to go pick my husband up because the caregiver is taking care of him. and I will listen to the video and see the rest of the meeting. I do appreciate all of you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jean.
Right.
Bye-bye.
I don't know. I guess
now.
I got to make sure I know how to leave this meeting. I don't want to cut you all off. Tell me how I leave this meeting without, oh, I just leave the meeting. Very good. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. All right. I'm getting texts, and so I'm answering those as we go. All right. Yeah, I know she got that. All right. All right. So I think I'm caught up. Let me catch up one more here. All right. Well, my apologies if I'm jumping the gun, but I'm trying to keep the flow moving here, and not get bogged down. There's a lot for them to do in the beginning, but so I'll try to be better about that. But we do need to follow the process. Number one, that's true as written, but we need to be ever mindful of the time on this. We cannot continue.
Dale, I don't think we're saying that you're jumping the gun. I think what we're saying is they don't know the process, and we're just
They don't, and that makes me jump in the gun, because my assumption was that they'd been through the process when it got there, and it hadn't, and so that's on me. I should know if it's gotten through the process or not. But there's no way for me to know that. But somehow I need to know that. But,
well, you could just make the comment to them to be sure to follow your peer review process. And continue on with their task. I understand what you're saying. They have to continue on before they get completely through all of the process. But maybe if you just make that comment, then that will alert them to, oh, there's another part of this I must do, even if you said it's good.
I think I'm going to say move on to the next part of the process, and whatever that is.
And I will tell you that the groups that I have, by the end of the week, there should be a whole bunch of them being put up, because we will have been through that process by the end of this week for task 1. They are currently working on 2 and 3.
Good.
Yeah,
and that's what they have to do. I mean, they have to be working on multiple tasks. If they're an add-on licensure, they have to, or they're never going to get it done. But we can't. One of the things that we found out from the spring with the add-on people in the 3 semester, one of the things we found out is that we didn't have a sense of urgency like what I'm talking about now, and we let the process play out, and over half of them at the end of the spring semester, over half of the students did not have both the APTEL and task stream as they needed to have. And so that's been a point of emphasis for us moving into the fall, is how can we speed this up? We can't keep coming to the end of this end of the semester and having a majority of these students not have all their work in, and it's a problem that we can't continue to have, and so we got to speed the plow in some way. We really rolled this thing out the 3 semester before. Gerald's done a great job with it. But Gerald, I know Gerald has told you the university wanted it moved out before we had when this thing rolled out in the spring, before we had some of these things ironed out. And we found out the hard way that it's really difficult to get 2 evidences out of them in the first semester. Really difficult. And so, so that's part of what the XM shelf is for, is to make sure that all of it's there. Now, I'm not saying that everything that comes through it's going to be a 4, but if all the pieces are there, and my assumption is it's been peer reviewed, it's at least proficient, and you can keep on moving. I'll say something different in these things, but one of the reasons why I did that, I kept getting students that would reply back saying, does that mean it's ready, or what do I need to do when I'd say it was good, bad, and if I'd say it was good or excellent, that's kind of code for 3 or 4, they'd email me back, well, what do I need to do? Well, that's when you need to move on to the next task. It's not an egg. It won't hatch if you sit on it. It needs to be moving. You can't get behind. The pacing is everything in this program. The pacing is everything, as we unfortunately have found out now. It's all about the pacing. This is part of the inside that you folks don't have to know, or don't need to know, or don't want to know, I'm sure, is what we asked to do is drop students who got behind out into a 699, and where they could catch up, but the university's not interested in that. That was going to be part and parcel of the plan when we roll this 3 semester out, is that rather than having a dark semester, if you were behind at the end of semester one, we would drop you into a $6.99. You paid the internship fee and caught back up. The university's not interested in that for obvious reasons. They only get $520 rather than regular tuition if we drop them into a $6.99. So that's kind of where we are. We're caught in between. We can't drop them into a $6.99, and we got to keep them rolling because they want the money. And the students aren't getting 2 evidences cranked out in that first semester, and then they're behind, and there's no time to catch up because it just rolls right on. We don't take summers off, and so therein lies our conflict here is we have to get them understanding that they have to. And Barbara's exactly right. They've got to be working on task 1, 2, and 3 all at the same time. And that's all I'm trying to tell them is, you need to be moving on. You can't just rest on this one and wait for it to get completely through before you start the next one. That's what students did in the spring, and they got behind in mass, not just a couple. In mass, they got behind. We saw that immediately. So that's what we're doing. So that's, also, I'm getting ready to wrap this thing up. I apologize. I've gone over our time here. That's where they can put the work in directly for you, and hopefully you'll beat me to it. They also have a discussion board function here where they can go in discussion board and anybody can read their work. Some of them use that exclusively. Let's look and see how many, because I took all the old ones out. It'll pop back up. We've had 23 students who put work in there, and I've read every one of those, and we've had 6 put in task 2, and some of them are using this because I think they figured out it comes directly to me. I'm going to slow down on grading in the ones that come to you, but I comment on this one and these because this one can come directly to me or anybody else. I'm not trying to do your job for you, but I have my eye on pacing. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't mean to insult you or usurp your authority, but my eye is on pacing. We can't come up at the end of, we've got 170 new ones. 170. The vast majority of those are add-on 3-semester people by a long shot. We looked at those numbers today. By a long shot, we have way more add-ons than we do regular now. And if we come up with the kind of numbers that we came up with last spring, we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 students behind at the end of this semester if we are on the same pace that we were in the spring. That speaks to your retention rate. Can't do that.
Right.
we can't do that. We took a hit on not getting information out to students. There was a glitch in the university. They didn't discover it for 11 days. I told you all that. Some of you've already experienced that. Rachel, going out and finding people that hadn't gotten any information and students dropping. We won't get a pass on that on our retention rate. They were ours at one time. They'll count against us. And when you get at the end of the semester and you get 100 behind, you lose a lot of those over the next semester because they get to the point where it's pointless. They're so far behind, they give up.
Right.
And so again, that speaks to our retention rate. And so we are we're kind of under the gun on retention rate, as we should be.
Dale, you mentioned earlier that a lot of the issues were in South Carolina with the students not getting information. Yes. It also happens in some of the big systems in North Carolina, because I know that when I've had them in Guilford County and Forsyth County, sometimes they never got our stuff from Gardner Webb, and it's the way they set up their computer system.
Yes. That's because it's been blocked. Those big districts block the ones with emails from EDU. They don't want their students working in online classes while they're at work, and they block them. That's exactly right. That's when I requested their personal email, and I was told the university, I showed you that policy is we're not to communicate with them through their private email. And I was like, but they didn't get the notification. They don't know they have a Gardner Webb email. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's just like, do you not understand that we know the policy is to communicate only through Gardner Webb email, but they don't have their Gardner Webb email. And so, yes, we have that problem in the big districts, and we had it in South Carolina this year. I actually had a young man show up for my weekend class in DEOL, and he, it wasn't just in the MELS program. He's in Greenville, South Carolina. He didn't hear a word, and so I was hunting him the first 2 weeks. I finally was able to get a hold of him through the contact of his school, so he didn't do the first 2 weeks' activities. So I got to teach all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and then spend 2 extra hours with him each night catching him up. So I'm intimately aware of the problem. I'm a little grumpy today because I spent my whole weekend teaching and trying to catch up a student who didn't get notified. And so I'm a little more grumpy than usual today. But yes,
Me too.
but at least he hung on. At least he stayed with us. We lost more than 20 that dropped out. And so that didn't get notified in the MELS program. And then I think Rachel got blasted the other day. That's not fun either.
No.
Yeah, I went and took one of those whippings myself last week. You didn't get notified.
But all's well that ends well, and it ended well.
And I know Kathy Revis has had that problem. She's gotten a little blowback, and I apologize to her. I know, but all this stuff, all this is part and parcel of retention rate.
Right.
We can have the greatest program in the world, but if our students don't stay on pace, or we don't contact them and they get behind the first 2 weeks, and then they feel like they're behind and can't catch up, or at the end of the first semester they didn't get both of theirs knocked out and get them in task stream, they drop out. It's just that. And so we've got to do whatever we can do, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to do this shell. We got to do whatever we can do to get them going faster, and get them understanding that you can't rest on your laurels. You don't get a day off in this business. You don't get a day off in the principling business either. It's good practice that you got to keep rolling, got to keep moving. You got to be able to do multiple things at once. The timeline's just too tight for add-ons. Now for the regulars that only have to do the app sale this semester, it's not so critical. But for the add-ons, it's a death march. It's just an incredible pace. But there's nothing we can do. We can't add more time.
Yeah.
And that's why they got in, was to get out in a year. And so we're going to have to go to the whip, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to do the town hall. I'm going to invite you, but it will be the content will be directed, and y'all can jump in and correct me or help me. But I'll send you within a week or so. I will send you the agenda, what I'm going to be covering in the content of that. But yeah, we want to speak directly to the site supervisors. Help us, and see that hopefully will help speed the process as well. If they have better access and faster to the things on their campuses, that will speed the evidence artifact process as well. And if they can't get to the principal for a month to set up a PLC, they're a month behind. You know how this, you know how it goes. So it's a combination of factors, and we got to keep our eye on all of those, and that's what we're trying to do. So it's but this is the nature of the business. This is what if you want to be an online player, this is what you have to do. It's not what we've always done, but it's what we're going to have to do going forward. And I appreciate all of you being there with us and doing that. The feedback has been really good on the coaches. Y'all are getting out there quickly and meeting people and getting them going. And I'm really pleased that seems like the pacing has been really good so far this semester. Feedback has been good. Students say, Jeff was on the road all day yesterday, and he came back, and his report is that we're accomplishing our goal, that students are struggling to get it all done, not because they don't know what to do, but because there's just so much to do, and that's what we want. We want the struggle to be to get it all done, not that they don't know what to do or don't have the access to do it. And so in 2 weeks, we're going to work on that access end in 2 weeks. I know that's a little bit late in the game, but we've been focused on other things, and we had to kind of let everything settle in. And so, the first week in October, we're going to hit the site supervisors and see if we can't get them to open up the access a little bit better. All right.
Sounds good.
Right. Thank you.
Nothing else for the good of the group. I will see you in 2 weeks. I'm available. Just
all right.
Holler.
Thank you.
I got
All right, y'all have a good evening.
Bye.
All right.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.